Here we go. All right, how's it going, everyone? The discussion today: do women view men as people? And the short answer to that is yes, they do. This has been Don't Panic, and this has been my guest Clint. Thanks for talking over me the whole entire time. We'll talk. No, I'm just joking. The question I was asking that. So just to kind of jump into it, I posted this question, and I had a comment on there saying it was a dumb question to ask, and I'm like, "No, it's not really. It's a provoking question because yeah, of course that's true. But the main question is, do men view women as people? And that was eventually going to be talked about here today. Um, but yeah, like the reason why I titled it that is it is a clickbaity title, but there's this inconvenient truth that we all look at each other as objects. Now, that's not necessarily bad, right? That's how our eyes work. We scan something, we view it, and then we decide in our brains what it is, doesn't matter, all that stuff. And men and women do this to each other too. And I was going to ask you, have you seen these articles about how men view, they don't see women as people?
I haven't seen articles about it, but I've seen plenty of commentary on social media, like TikTok and all that. And I mean, we
Mm,
spend a lot of time, in those spaces and listening to people like that. I've seen plenty of that where the argument is that neither gender sees the other as people. I've
mm.
seen different stats and things like that. I'm just like, it's all the same conversation that you see all the time where they just can't come to an agreement and understand that there's more nuance to these things than just looking at a sheet of stats and just basing your
Exactly.
whole argument off that.
Well, it comes from a study. Now, this is what people don't understand about studies. It's it's to make a generalization, right? And this is why I always say when it comes to statistics, it doesn't apply to the individual, right? Because statistically, I should be very violent. I should be in prison just from how I was raised. I should be in prison. I should have a criminal record a mile high, but I don't. I've never acted out violently. I've never physically harmed anyone. I mean, I got in fistfights with my brothers, but other than that, really no issues. So I always point that out to people. They don't literally get every man in the world and do this study. I guarantee you, if they
I
did, the numbers would be drastically different.
always ask, what's the sample size? What is the
Mm,
sample? Who are they talking to? It's me, and people need to understand this. This is the same thing as when these guys go out on the streets with a microphone and camera and they go to specific areas to interview certain types of people. It's the same type of statistic. You're getting a skewed representation of reality.
mm,
Plus, when you're being performative in your research, you're going to draw reactions out of people
right.
that you want.
Oh yeah.
That's the idea here.
Yeah, it's the videos every time I see like hey, do you have a boyfriend that you cheated on that he doesn't know about? And they're like, "Yeah, okay, well you're in fucking Reno, Nevada, okay? The cheating capital of the world. You're going to get that answer 9 times out of 10." But it's this, you see a few people, you can apply this to anything. You can apply it to um people who are racist against people of color, right? They had a few bad experiences in their mind, and or their parents told them, and they're like, okay, based off of these few experiences, I'm going to judge the whole group as a whole. Like they're all the same, and that's really unfair. That's when the whole all men thing came out. There was
Right.
you, me, and a lot of other guys, Matt Shuley, tons of other guys were pushing against that, saying, no, no, we're not gonna carry the burden of what bad men have done. Like if we would have been there, we most likely would have stepped in and prevented it. Like we can't be everywhere. Um, it's that's not a fair assessment to make. And you always get the excuse, well, we're not literally meaning all men. Then don't say it. Don't
Exactly. It's
don't
that
say it
simple.
then.
Don't say it. You're speaking into a device that broadcasts to millions of people. You need to. I'm all about free speech, and I'm all about crass humor and saying what I actually mean and things like that. But
Right.
there's a limit to these things. And while I do believe in free speech, you get on there and you say things like all men. I always, you brought up the whole race thing before. I
Mm.
always do that when I'm talking to these type of people.
Mm.
Imagine taking that, apply it to a race. It's not okay over here, not okay over here. And it's, I don't get that.
Well, my favorite thing, not my favorite because it's a good example. It's because it's a bad example that people use. When there is this example made, like, okay, someone gives you a box of chocolates, and one of the chocolates is poison. Are you going to take the risk and take a piece of chocolate out? No, they're probably going to all be the same. And they applied that to men. Like, this is how you should view men. You shouldn't just, you know, without caution, just accept that. You should be very cautious. I'm like, okay, well, you just repeated verbatim a racist talking point created by white racists to legitimize, like, well, there's some black people that are fine, but if I gave you a box of chocolates, and that's where it came from. They're using racist talking points as men, like as a reason to avoid men or not trust men. And the thing is, what I've said, and I think you've said this too, I say don't trust people unless they've proven themselves trustworthy. Don't base your trust on a characteristic, a religion, whatever it is. Watch them. Watch people in general. Men and women are capable of doing the same amount of harm in different ways. But they can be just as nasty as the other. There's really no. It's more visible with men because men do cause more violent harm. They do. But women do like reputation destruction. There's this. I don't know if you saw the video that I did. Men are like, "I'll kill you," and women are like, "I'll make you kill yourself." It's a it's it's the same thing. It's the same thing, but just done different. There's different avenues, and that's really the point of like, do women view men as people? There's some that I will claim that don't, and it's the same way. There's some men who look at women as just like, oh, there's something I can finish in. There's women who view men as like, oh, he will pay my bills, he will make my life more comfortable, he will be my bodyguard, and they view that as an object, right? That's not necessarily bad. It's bad if that's the only thing you care about, because we all care about these things. Like I like being with my partner because she makes me laugh, she makes me feel safe. I can talk to her about anything. The physical satisfaction, all of it bundled up into one. These are the things I love about my partner, and it matters on the context of it, depending on context, that's whether you view them as a person or as an object.
And
Right?
a lot of those, like what we were talking about a few minutes ago, where they're getting these talking points, and that was started by racists, yes, but it's also injected into our culture from people who want to keep us divided. They want black versus white, man versus woman, Democrat versus Republican, and
Yeah.
if you stay divided, well, then you can't look at what the real problem is, and they just rob you blind while
Hmm.
you're fighting.
It's the greatest con in the world. It,
Yes.
like if you can convince one group of people that another group of people is bad, oh, all right, you just gave us a wide berth to shove in something that you guys want to be
Exactly.
able to see because you're distraction. All of this is a distraction. Like I think it's good talking about it. Like even talking about it is like a distraction as well, but I think also acknowledging like there is a distraction. It's good and safe to have this conversation. I was gonna pull up stats and everything, but again, stats don't really matter to the individual. It's just this perpetual mindset of like, yeah, there are gonna be people that cause you harm. There's gonna be people that take advantage of you, take advantage of your kindness, and they'll trick you. It's probably happened to you. It's definitely happened to me. It's probably happened to anyone who's listening to this. They had someone they trusted and they were like, oh man, shouldn't have done that. And then we tend to blame ourselves. We get like, I don't know how you ever felt about it, but like when I've been betrayed by someone, I feel dumb. I feel stupid. I'm embarrassed. Like I'm
When you're
ashamed.
when you're an empathic person and somebody who's not, there's our favorite word again, narcissist. When you're not like that, that's what you tend to do whenever something goes wrong. You tend to look inward instead of, well, no, it's this person that did this to me. I didn't do anything wrong. Or, it's like it's inverted. So
Hmm.
when you're doing good all the time, you're still not thinking that you're doing it's complicated, but you
Hmm.
know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's extremely complicated. Like, and that's a sign of a good person. Like, they don't try to blame everybody else. Like, the inconvenient truth as well is that bad things that happen to you, there are cases where it's not your fault. Like if you're walking down the street and someone like takes your purse or, takes your wallet and runs off with it. I mean, that's not necessarily your fault, right? But there are some things in your life that you're partially to blame for. Like sometimes when relationships end, yeah, there are cases where the other person was just terrible. They were lying to you the whole entire time while you were doing good things. But when my relationships have ended, I always looked at like, what did I do wrong? Like, was I not listening enough? Was I not taking their feelings into account? Was I ignoring an elephant in the room and avoiding conflict? Like one of my toxic traits that it took me a long time to unlearn, very conflict avoidant. Like I'll argue with people on TikTok because there's really no risk there, but I always avoided arguments in relationships because my parents argued all the time and I knew how that made me feel and I never wanted to feel that way again. So by avoiding arguments and conflict, I probably ended a lot of my relationships that way because I refused to talk about issues or problems. Um, so yeah, I had partial blame in a lot of my relationships ending. I wasn't a perfect angel. I wasn't terrible, but there were some things I probably could have done better at. And seeing these men and women like, my life sucks because of her or my life sucks because of him, like, okay, maybe, but like what are you doing to contribute to that? Like what could you do better in that situation?
Where's your culpability? And I mean,
Hmm.
even if you got out of an extremely abusive one-sided relationship, it's still good to look inward and go, was there anything that I could have done to fix that? I mean, not focus on it and make everything your fault. It's not bad to kind of look at it retrospectively and being like, well, maybe I could have done this better, or maybe they gave me this kind of a warning and I didn't see it, and that kind of deal. And
Hmm.
not missing the red flags next time. Because if you don't improve from that, well then someone could potentially do it again.
Well, that's what people don't. They don't realize what memories are for. Memories are not to look back and fond. Like, yeah, you can be fond over past memories. Memories, really, from a biological and evolutionary standpoint, they're to warn us. They're there to, like, it's like the chameleons. Like they learned how to change their color around their environment to avoid predators because past experiences from their ancestors, they learned something within their genes that, like, hey, we're gonna avoid getting eaten by a crow or something. Um, our memories are to protect us, and we do ignore a lot of red flags. And I guess where that comes within, men viewing men or women viewing each other the opposite as people. I think at the same time, we again, people and objects. And when you say object, there's a negative connotation to it. There's like, oh, you're objectifying them. You're wanting to, make them a puppet or a sex doll or a complete slave. And no, that's not necessarily true. It depends on the context. Um, it's just a really weird thing. That's why I wanted to have the conversation like this because there's things that I don't even still know. Like just because we're talking about it doesn't mean we have all the answers, right?
Right.
I
And
think.
I think as far as like the women not viewing men as people, where that comes from, I think is that same stat that we've talked about in previous videos where they say, well, they're 80% of women are only after 20% of men. And
Right.
some people, they even go even more extreme. They say, no, it's more like 90 and 10. But the thing about it is, you're a big Jordan Peterson fan, right?
Love him. He got my life on track. His books alone.
I haven't read his books or followed his career, but I remember watching a video one time where he was talking about how women have to navigate the dating world.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more threat assessment than there is for men.
Way more.
So because of that, it's not uncommon or crazy to believe or see that, yeah, they would try to single out their dating options and focus on one particular crowd.
Mm.
Then there's a bunch of other underlying statistics that guys don't think about. Like, first of all, your dating profile looks like shit. You have a really bad profile picture and your bio is terrible. It doesn't evoke any thoughts or questions, and things like that. But, there's a threat assessment there. Of course, women are going to, I don't know how dating apps work. Is it swiping right to select?
From my recollection, yeah. Right.
They're going to swipe right less.
Yeah.
Men will. There's more of that out there, but that's where I've seen that sentiment comes from about men not being viewed as people by women is from that statistic, that same one, because that's what I've seen spark that debate. Well, they go after this 20% of men, the other 80% they don't see as people, and when they pass them on the street, they got the blinders up. Well, that's nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's right. I think that's skewed, and you're, like I said, you're broadcasting to millions of people, and they're going to make them believe that, and they're not even going to try to improve their life and be dateable.
Yeah, and again, those sample sizes, they're not taken into account. There's people who never have dating profiles. Like, it's more common now than it used to be, especially during COVID. But not everybody's on a dating site. Not everybody is on Tinder and Bumble and Hinge. It's when you send that message out to people, it does discourage them. Like, the only time it discouraged me, the only time I ever went on dating profiles when I was single, it was around the time Ed Sheeran was big, and then there was a trend that redheads were the new hot thing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna capitalize on this.
Cash in.
I'm gonna cash in my freaking reparations. It's about time. It's about time we.
I don't have the benefit of even looking like Ed Sheeran, so I wouldn't have been able to pull that off. So
I mean, looking like Ed Sheeran, it's not the best thing in the world, because me and him have something in common. It's barely noticeable. This eye is a little bit crooked and very pale skin. If you slap us, we turn pink. It's not good. Like, when you look at us, oh, there's novelty there, but then once you experience us, it's like you wake up next to me and it's like, oh, he's covered in fire ants. Oh no, that's just his freckles. Okay. Thank God. I thought we had a fire ant infestation.
But what the hell? I remember when I know I'm getting off topic here, but I remember the first time that my freckles appeared when I was a kid. Oh, I freaked out. I was at a babysitter's house and we were running around out in the sunlight, right? And I was getting some sun and I was just covered. My face was covered in them.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, God, what happened? Yeah. Just out of nowhere.
Oh, goodness gracious. Technical difficulties, but we're back. But yeah, my uncle told me, because I didn't like my freckles. I didn't like them at all. And my uncle told me, if you just rub lemon, like you cut a lemon in half and you rub it on your face, it'll get rid of them.
Oh, no.
And I did. And then it got all in my eyes. It irritated my skin. He was a dick, man. Like, I loved him. He was an asshole, dude.
Your family went the deceptive route. My family went the acceptance route, which is they were trying to get me to believe that they were angel kisses. That's what I was told.
No, that, I think I was like 12 or 13, and I think it was my aunt. She was the one that told me that. She was like, "Oh, they're angel kisses." And I was like, "Well, if angels did this to me, I was sexually assaulted."
Exactly.
Because they're all over my fucking body. And I need to go talk to God about that. We need to do an HR report on that.
Yeah, we need to have a discussion, buddy. I don't think your staff is, I don't think they're really angels.
No, we need to create more fallen angels, okay? Let them fall. But, oh my God, I don't know how we even got to this point.
I don't know either.
But, yeah, like, viewing more, okay, men viewing with women as objects. Um, there again, I have looked at the studies. I can't remember everything verbatim, but it did show that, they would show different things. They would like show children or pictures of their relatives, and they would the part of their brain that views people as people. They're like, oh, okay, well, they scanned it, and then some random woman that they don't even know, scantily clad or wearing a nice fitting dress, they would look at that, and then the part of their brain that views objects like boats or tools or something like that, that part of their brain would highlight. And I really asked myself that question, like, okay, why would that show up? And I have a perfect example or a perfect reasoning for it. They don't know these women personally, right?
That's what I was going to say. They don't know them.
They don't know them. And yet, is it kind of bad that those men just like didn't see them as a person? Yeah, but with men, when things are unknown or they're not interpersonal, like when I see a woman out in public that I don't know, I'm not, in my mind thinking object, object, object. I see them as a person, obviously, but I'm not curious about what their name is or where they went to school. Like I don't care if I ever see them again. Like it's
Right.
a fleeting thought that I don't care about this person. I'm gonna go get my Doritos and cheese dip, and that's all. I don't care about that person. And I think if they did a similar test to women, I think it would show probably the same thing. Like a man that they don't know doing a task or something. I think the same scans would happen. I think it only depends, like if you know the person, because why would you care or want to view somebody as like you should view people as people, but is it that terrible if you see somebody walking down the street, your brain doesn't think person like automatically? Like what harm does that do?
No, it doesn't do any harm. And I mean, the reason why the brain activity is so prevalent in the pictures of the relatives is not because of the image. It's because of the memories and, the awareness in their head. And it's firing off all those neurons because they know this person. And
Hmm.
you're looking at the strange woman that you don't know just because she might be scantily clad or whatever the experiment did. I mean, they're just seeing an image. An
Hmm.
image is an object.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think it was a terrible study to release. I think it was a huge mistake because when people they'll read the headline, they'll never read the article. They'll never read into who the test subjects were. They don't take into account their backgrounds. Because yeah, there are misogynist men that look at women like, wormhole. That's it. That's some guys think like that. That's a reality. But they don't take that into account. And then now you have a good amount of women who really believe that a man in their life doesn't view them as a person. They have been convinced, like, oh, he just sees me as an object. And I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm pretty sure that article probably ended a lot of relationships. Because what do you think that's going to do to a woman when she finds out that her partner may only look at her as an object? That's going to cause resentment, right? And women tend to be a little bit more passive aggressive than they are aggressive. So then they'll start micromanaging or micro analyzing everything he's doing and then add that to the pot of, okay, I'll put that in my resentment cup. Oh, he didn't listen to me. I had to raise my voice so he could hear me. Okay, put that in my resentment cup. Oh, he didn't take out the trash again before he went to work. All right, resentment cup. And it just builds this just overbearing feeling that you're with someone that doesn't view as a person and it validates it. Um, I think we need to leave like statistics and studies to things that actually matter. If like, of course, it does matter if someone views you as an object or not. But when you do this generalized study that didn't even do the majority, they got less than 1% of the population in that study. But then you're going to apply it to everybody else just on generalities. That's doesn't make sense to me.
so I'd be curious to see what their brain activity was when a family member popped up on the image that was a female family member. But I digress.
Mm.
I wonder though. So I asked this question: what would be more valuable uh, towards fixing this? Is it that we need people to do experiments that are meaningful? Do we need to focus more on that, or do we need to focus more on basically training the general population to question things more, do further research, not just read headlines and subtitles?
I
Because I feel like if we focus on that, well, the research won't be there to fuel it because, well, people are calling BS on all these trash experiments.
mm,
Um,
I think it's twofold. I think we should let people know, like, hey, you need to read the whole article. I know it's taxing, but there's a screen read feature on everybody's phones now. If you don't feel like reading the whole article, you can literally program your phone to read the whole article to you. So if you don't feel like reading, that's fine. Second, this idea that it has to be one way or the other doesn't have to be that way. Both things can be true. Um, we are people. We know we're people. Everybody knows they're people. And we also objectify each other. That happens. It's on how much objectification you're doing onto someone. That's when it becomes wrong. When you only just like view them as an object, then that's wrong. But there is always objectifying of people. Like, I'm objectified, you're objectified, women are objectified. It happens all over the place. And instead of looking at it as some evil thing, like, did it kill you? Did someone, maybe, because you can't read people's minds, did the guy walking past you on the street, didn't say a word to you, him objectifying you, what did that do to you? What harm did it
exactly.
cause? And that's another thing too. People are mind reading each other constantly. That's why I don't really like the relationship advice TikToks. I used to do them all the time, and I'm going to chop off a part of my body to atone for that one day, maybe my pinky finger, because that was dumb. But like relationships, when it comes to trying to villainize the other person, when like I've seen your relationship advice videos, it's more like, hey, come to a consensus, talk to each other. Like yours is healthy. The ones I've seen online, it's like they're trying to project or mind read someone's intentions. Um, like, oh,
We're trying to build an audience.
yeah, they're trying to feed off this I want to call it like hypochondria when it comes to like the other, like man versus woman. It's this crazy thought process where they're trying to convince other people like, hey, your partner, he didn't fold his underwear or he didn't put his dirty underwear in the laundry. That's a sign he's going to start punching you in the face. How did we get there? How did you make that jump?
Right.
Like, yeah, how did you make that connection? Well, studies. No, I don't. Fuck the study. You're convincing women that they're in danger if these small bothersome things that annoy you will lead to something bad in the future. It's I think people, I don't know if they get it or not. I hope someone listening to this will accept this. The person you end up with, they're going to annoy the fuck out of you, probably for the rest of your life. That's what happens when you're around people for a long time in the same vicinity. You're going to get annoyed at them, right? It doesn't mean it's a red flag, right? Like,
Right.
I annoy my partner constantly. I'm insufferable. I do weird voices and I make weird jokes and all that stuff, and she'll give me the ugh, that just sigh of, oh my god, I can't believe you just said that. She annoys me sometimes. She's hard to wake up. She is a bear in hibernation. I can literally flip the mattress and she'll stay asleep. That annoys me. I love her though, right? Doesn't mean it's a red flag. Like, oh, she oversleeps, so she's gonna poison my coffee with some Drano. No, that you're gonna have little annoyances through your relationship. It doesn't mean it's a red flag that's gonna lead to something terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I annoy my wife on purpose, so
I do too.
I guess she's fucked then.
The thing I annoy my partner with, she hates it, and I love that she hates it. Anytime the word cream comes up, I do this voice and try not to cringe. I'll go, Queen? Oh, I know you just. That's the same grunt she does. But I go, oh, super creamy. It's the most annoying, gross thing. And she hates it. But she loves me still. She loves me. You know? I make up for it. I do other things that kind of negate that annoyance. But that's just relationships, man. Like,
yeah, that's what it is. There was actually there's a woman that I'm friends with on TikTok that she had posted something about her relationship. She was doing something to basically like prank her her husband. I don't even think it was a prank. She was just kind of being not necessarily rude, but she was like, I'm not going to do this thing for you right now because it's convenient or whatever. And people took that as like, oh my God, you're the worst wife ever. Like, this is why men need to leave women and don't need to pursue relationships anymore. And I'm like, guys, it ain't that deep.
Yeah, what was it though?
I think it was, so they were both in two separate vehicles parked in a parking lot. What's up, Nate?
Yo.
Hey, Nate.
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Sorry, I just woke up from a nap, so I'm a little bit. Yeah.
No, you're good, man. Dude, I just woke up from like a 101 temperature and an air infection. So.
No. Fuck, man, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
No, I was going to say it was just they were in a parking lot, I guess, waiting on kids to get out of like some kind of game or something, their kids, and they were in two separate vehicles, but it was cold outside. He was just trying to get her to roll her window down so he could talk to her, and she's like, no, it's cold outside. I'm not rolling down the window. I thought it was funny, the way she tells it. She's got a little bit of ADHD, and it's just funny listening to her talk about stuff, and just guys exploded. It just went crazy, like, oh, it's the worst wife ever. This is why we need to leave relationships. And it's like, guys, this is part of a relationship. If you think it's all, good time, well, I mean, that to me, that is a good time because it's funny. Yeah. If you think it's just, you're not going to annoy each other, like, really?
Well, it's, again, like, there's people who will straight up, they will end a relationship over a small annoyance. I'm like, you probably wouldn't have been born if your parents didn't, like, stick together after some annoyances.
Oh God! I mean, people don't think about that stuff.
They don't. So to catch you up, we kind of already been through like the real discussion that we're having. Like, of course, women view men as people, and we went over the studies of their brains were being scanned, and like when they saw women, the object part of their brain turned on, and I kind of just explained, well, when you don't know someone. Like, of course, you're going to see them as a person, but you are going to objectify them. They're an object because you don't know who they are. That's just how the human brain works. And so what's your opinion on that? Like that whole debate and discussion that's been happening?
What? It was whether or not women and men. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to step on a lot of fucking toes with my statement. I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm going to step on a whole lot of fucking toes. But here's the thing. I don't think it's a man or woman issue so much as a societal issue. I don't personally believe that society as a whole views men as people. And I have a few, evidence to back that up.
Oh, go for it, man.
Yeah. So the biggest evidence I can give is the male suicide issue. So with that, it's, I think, between the years of 2021 and 2022, there were just a little over 38,000 deaths that were male. And there were just a little over 9,000 that were female, right? But I can guarantee you that bringing that up, if this panel was, with a whole shit ton of fucking people watching, your comments would be inundated with so many people saying something along the lines of women try it more, or, all these, patriarchy, things of that sort, instead of, oh my God, that's fucking terrible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they try to do
Uh,
whataboutism.
Yes, it'd be far more whataboutism other than, whoa, shit, we got to handle this. You know what I'm saying? Um, and for me, I don't really typically get too upset when women do that so much, because it's kind of like I've gotten to a point where it's just kind of expected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get more upset when you have these guys that do that, because it's like, bro, you know, you have a possibility. There's a possibility one day that you're gonna get older and become like a father, or to a son or something like that. And are you really gonna want, like, if your son goes off and offs themselves, are you gonna want to hear, oh well, the opposite sex tries it more, or it was all due to patriarchy and shit. You know,
Yeah. Well, I've had
no,
women.
nobody's gonna want to hear that.
Yeah, I've had
And
women
then
say that.
yeah, and then you get to, and that's, again, that's not my only form of evidence. My other form of evidence for society not really viewing men as human is also the homelessness rate, and how homeless men are treated versus how homeless women are treated. And my other form of evidence is crisis. Any form of crisis, a man gets murdered or something along those lines. It's typically, you might hear about it on a couple news stations or something along those lines, but most of the time, it's really not made out to be as big of a deal. And again, this isn't like me being mad at women or anything like that. I genuinely believe that because of how society has just been used to treating men for so fucking long, it's hard for society to wrap their heads around that men are thinking, feeling, um, you know, beings. And I don't really fault that so much on any one sex as I fault it on just us as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I've
you know,
the thing is, and this is probably wrong for me to do. Anytime I've ever had that reply given to me that, well, women try it more, it's just men succeed. And when they say that, they're saying with vitriol, and my response to them is like, okay, well, one other thing that men are better at, and I know it's wrong to say. I know it's wrong to
no.
say.
So with something like that, you're making a really dark. Don't get me wrong, I love fucking dark humor, and that's actually a funny dark humor joke. Like,
Yeah.
you really shouldn't be, and I totally get where you're coming at, where you really shouldn't be, but that one's not gonna really, you know. Um,
I say it
it's
because
just,
I want to make them angry, because what they said was terrible. Like, I don't know if you guys, the woman who said, "Man ain't around to abuse their kids." That's why the terrible thing to say. Just look at the thing that's happening. What is this? What has just popped up? I see a watch
Y'all see
stream.
that?
We're getting attacked.
I don't see if y'all can see I put up an image. I don't know if y'all can see it.
Oh, watch. Oh, I got to click watch stream. Here we go.
yeah. So like, one is for homeless people, but the other three are men. And well, and here's where it gets interesting too, is uh because I was homeless for about 2.5 years in Phoenix,
Oh, man.
Arizona. Right? And one of the things I noticed right off the bat was unless the woman was on heavy, heavy drugs or heavily psychotic, somebody was going to take her off that street.
Yep.
I mean, I witnessed it happen all the time. Like, I'd meet some new chick or something that, ended up homeless because she lost her job, or because she was fucking around and just didn't want to get her shit together or whatever. She'd have a new boyfriend within like a week or two. Or some chick she met would be like, "Oh, you can come sleep on my couch," within like, minutes. And I'm not hating on her for it. I mean, like, fuck yeah, I wish it would have been that easy for me. But the fact is even at our lowest, typically women tend to have a lot more people willing to help than a man does.
There's only
You know?
2 battered men shelters in America, I think.
Yeah.
shelters for men. I think there's 2.
And it's like what 40% of all abuse or domestic violence is the man's the victim. It's like close to 40% of all domestic violence. It's the man that's the victim, not the woman.
And a lot of the times it's both parties domestically abusing each other too at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
crazy,
man.
It's one of those crazy things for me where it's like I would never say we need less, women shelters. I would never fucking say that. I would never even think that. But you have people who who would honestly say that 2 men's shelters for domestic violence that's too many.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can think of a few people that would say that actually.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by like it's this weird thing that it's a fucking weird and fucked up situation that we find ourselves in where I have a hard time not believing that society as a whole just does not view men in general as human beings.
Have you ever watched the Wall? Pink Floyd's The Wall?
Yeah. Oh, the movie.
The movie. Have you seen it, Clint?
Yeah. Years.
Watched it. I know about it though.
It's people get different messages from it. It's literally how men will put metaphorical bricks in their wall to like guard them from society, and how men were very disposable during the war. They were just like lambs to the slaughter, just another brick in the wall of society, and that we were extremely expendable. And the main character, Pink, he like experienced so much trauma. He lost his dad in the war. His wife cheated on him. He got on copious amounts of drugs, all these things, and just would build a brick wall between him and society. And he thought that would keep him safe. And I think that's where you mentioned society, Nate. I think where it starts, because society, that's a monolith. That's something that people have created, this idea. But to change that, you have to take those bricks out of the wall, and it starts with like conversations that we're having, individuals coming together, rejecting society's idea of what we are. Like when I was 18, I had to sign my life over to the government for a potential war. Like if there was a draft, I was going to be shipped off to some country and die for something I didn't even believe in. And I was just another, again, brick in the wall to be used for something that I didn't believe in. So really, it starts with small conversations and not even like acknowledging the big society. Like we can create our own society. Oh yeah. What's up? You there, Nate?
Yeah. I mean, well, to a degree, but I think a lot of it is, hold on. You guys there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're here.
Okay. All right. I think you're right to a degree, but I also think it's a little more complicated than that as well. Because I mean, we have to also look at habits, and it's just been like a habitual thing across all of mainstream, and it's crazy because when the one that annoys the piss out of me the most is when people claim patriarchy is the issue. Patriarchy is the issue. As if, like, since 1916, women haven't held office. Like, because I looked into it. Like, 1916, the first woman held office in United States. Right. And they've been holding office since about that time on numerous occasions and numerous times. And it's not even just the lawmakers. It's like those that are famous, right? I've worked in the entertainment industry for 12 years. 12 years. And never once have I ever seen any concert, any singer, any stage actor, nobody I've ever seen come up during their show or something like that and say, hey, this is an issue with like the male suicide thing, right? I've never seen any of them come, stop the show for a second and go, hey, we've got a problem in our country with, male suicide. We need to do something about it. And I would actually argue that like the most famous of us are typically the most heard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
more people are going to listen to what Oprah has to say than what Hillary Clinton has to say, and it's
Well, that's just
some
because
people
no one
might
wants to
disagree with
die.
me. What was it? Nobody wants to. Yeah, nobody wants to. Yeah, and so when I think power, I don't just think political power. I think like how many famous women have there been? How many that have had a direct influence on how people think within our society? And there's been a shit ton. There have been an innumerable amount of women who have had some form of influence on how our society has developed over time. So when they bring up patriarchy, like it's just the men who have had all the control at all times and that they've influenced everything and that there's been no influence of women whatsoever, I find that to be kind of insultive towards women. Like I find it actually very misandrist, not misandrist,
Misandrist, yeah.
what the one, not misandrist, the other one where you hate women,
Misogynist.
misogynist. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, I find that to be extremely misogynistic because it's like you're basically saying that women have just been nothing but around for the ride, like nothing more than a puppy dog on your front seat, and that's like no.
No, it's not true. Women,
You know what I'm saying?
women were, when the World War was happening, the only reason the government kept on going is women went into the workforce. They picked up the slack when men went to war. Like, women are directly
Exactly.
responsible for how successful that we are. And if it was a patriarchy, where's my fucking benefits? Like, where the fuck? Like, that's what a patriarchy is where every man, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, of course there's going to be class stuff, but at the same time, like, if it was a society built around the benefit of men, okay, where? Like, there are benefits that men and women have that are different, right? But patriarchy, it's a ghost. It's a ghost story. Yeah, did it exist? Sure. There was guys drinking tea with fucking pompadour wigs or whatever the fuck, with fucking powder makeup on, and like, oh, right, we shouldn't let women vote. They're cross. That existed, but it doesn't exist today, modern day. It does not.
Let's also add to that as well that and I believe this, and some people get mad at me for saying it, but a lot of those restrictions and rights were held because they thought they were protecting them. They thought that they were, well, we don't want them to have to do that. We don't want them to have to do these things that we're doing. So
you're a piece of shit. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it all because I've said that before. And like, even then, it wasn't coming from a place of maliciousness. They literally thought that they were helping women by putting these restrictions and laws on them. And then, you can't say anything like that. But to your point, Nate, earlier when you were talking about the issue of when you bring up the male suicide rate and they want to bring up, well, women try more. It's like, can we not focus on two issues?
Well, and for me, it's one of those things of, when somebody brings that up, I'm like, yeah, you could. I try every day to be a millionaire, but I'm not a fucking millionaire.
Trying hard enough. No, I'm just joking.
But you see my point? It's like, that's the part that it's like, seriously, you're going to bring up the try thing? Like, bro, you can try to be a millionaire every single fucking day, but if you ain't a millionaire, you're not a fucking millionaire. So it's the same, and it's the same fucking thing of, you can try to fucking off yourself every goddamn day, but if you're not offing yourself, it's apples and fucking oranges. You're comparing apples and oranges at that point.
Well, that's my point, though. It's like, can we not focus on two issues? If the issue of frequency among women trying, can we not work on that while also let's not ignore the fact that men are dying when they do it. Let's focus on, but people don't want to do that.
Definitely.
People don't want to do that. Yeah. They want to focus on one issue and keep all the discussions black and white when there's so many gray areas. And like, can we work together, be cohesive, and fix it? But
let me ask you both this. So if without, like, say this was the beginning discussion, like say if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of women attempting suicide. What are your thoughts on that? I would bet my left nut that neither one of you would start the conversation. Well, actually, man, I don't think you would bring up. I think you would react like that's awful. Why is that? Like,
Yeah.
let's
I
have a
mean,
discussion.
we should probably, I'm one of those guys, and a lot of people, have looked at me like you're fucking nuts. But I'm one of those guys that believes in bringing back the old school without the fucking brain thing that they did, where they take out part of your brain, lobotomies.
Mhm.
Scratch the fucking lobotomies, scratch the horrible fucking treatment, but bringing back the mental wards that we had prior to that one president getting rid of all of them. When we had at one point in America, we had it to where if you were a bit off, they would, institutionalize you, right?
Mm.
And I think we shouldn't go as hardcore as they did, but I do at least think that we need to start bringing back the institutions to a certain degree. I think it would help a lot with the homeless situation. I think it would help a lot with the drug addict situation.
Mm.
And I think it would help both men and women. We shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be a sex based thing. It should really be a, hey, you just tried to kill yourself. Guess what? You're going to go to this hospital for a little while. They're going to, probably pump you with a few drugs, make you sit in a circle and sing kumbaya and talk about your feelings and get it all out. I mean, hell, I'd volunteer to work at one of those places dressed up as a big fucking panda bear and just give everybody fucking hugs every
Well, that's
goddamn
just a
morning they
Saturday
woke
night
up.
for me.
Yeah, that'd be like my perfect fucking job. I dress up as a giant fucking panda and I hug people every fucking morning that are in those fucking hospitals
Well, it was a good
until
idea.
they get fucking better.
It was a good idea,
You
but
know?
the way it was done wasn't good. I think the
Yeah,
idea,
and that's what I mean. Like, we get
yeah.
rid of like the bad way it was done, and like, instead of lobotomies, hugging panda, bam. You know?
Actually, you know what? You know what would fix it? I mean, it wouldn't fix it, but it would drastically change. Um, Jordan Peterson, we talked about him earlier before you got in here. And
I love him.
I cry every single time I watch him. He's like the grandfather I didn't have. I grew up
Yeah,
without a grandfather, and he was like, "All right, I'll adopt you as my grandfather." He's going to be in Texas sometime next year, I think, and I'm going to go to his seminar and I'm going to shake his hand and be like, "I'm breathing because of you, buddy." He said,
yeah,
"It is, it's troubling how many people go throughout their life without one word of encouragement."
yeah.
And that's usually what it takes. Just a word of encouragement. Just one part, not this is what I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent here. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
We're all guilty of this, right? When we came on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, without us even knowing it, we wanted to be heard. Not only be heard, but valued for what we said or what we did. And we look at it, we get this validation and it makes us feel good. But what it's lacking is actual real encouragement. Just
Yeah,
taking your time out of your day just to, when you see somebody struggling, you go up to them and be like, "Hey man, like I can tell you're struggling, but regardless of how you feel, you're doing great, man. Like, yeah, things could be better, but that takes time. Everything takes time." And I just want to let you know I'm proud of you. Just uttering the words "I am proud of you" can do so much for someone's mental health and their ability to move forward, to do better in life. And
yep.
I had words of encouragement from my father, and I had a good family base, but I never was taught how to utilize it because my dad wasn't taught either. Um, Me and him kind of like matured at the same time when it came to our self worth, our value, what we can contribute. Um, we look for validation through external means, but I think what will fix or maybe even just help the issue is encourage yourself, encourage others, say, hey, you know what? Yeah, your life could be so much better than it is. But that's time. This is not a race, it's a marathon. It's going to take time to get to where you want to be. You're probably going to be 60 when you get there, but that's fine. Enjoy the journey there and make the right decisions. And I think just a word of encouragement, even to strangers, if you notice somebody doing something good, or even out in public, like just simple words of encouragement. I think that would do so much for people's mental health. It would do a whole lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I had first ended up homeless in Phoenix, one of my coworkers, I was working at a job at the time, and one of my coworkers was this old guy, like real old guy, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Do you need a hug, man?" And the difference that made, because like my whole world was crashing down at that point in time. Like I felt like I had failed. I felt I was lost. And this old dude that I worked with just was like, "Hey man, you need a hug," and he gives me a hug, and that. So I know for a fact that things like that make an absolute difference in how you perceive things and how you get through things.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It changes,
and it's
man.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, so when I come across somebody who's going through a tough time or something like that, I'm quick to be the same way, because it's like, I know how it feels to have someone do the same for me. And so it's like, and seeing people struggle, seeing people go through even remotely what I went through, I don't wish that on anybody. Did I learn something from it? Absolutely. Did it make me stronger, a stronger person than I was at the time? Absolutely. But I would never want to see anyone else have to go through it, and it sucks because where I live, there are a bunch of homeless people around my neighborhood, and it breaks my heart every time I see them, because it's like I want to, lead them to something better, but a lot of times, and what a lot of people don't realize about homelessness is a lot of times people get so far into it, and have been homeless for so long, they just completely and utterly give up. They
Right.
uh, and there's no bringing them out of it. Once they reach a certain point, there's no getting them out. You can give them all the resources, you can give them homes, you can do all these different things, but you are actually never going to take them out of the street in that sense. That mentality is just
It's
the
hard, man.
yeah, I mean, because I don't know if you've ever watched those YouTube videos where the one guy will go, "Yeah, I gave, I did a GoFundMe for this guy that was homeless," and at first you'll see a few videos and the guy's doing good, he's back on his feet or whatever, but then within like a month maybe, he's back on the drugs, and then he's back on the street, and it's
Mhm.
like
And it's not
it's a
intentional.
shitty situation. No,
It's a hard
no, it's
thing
just
to get from.
yeah,
Um,
it's a hole, man. It's a fucking endless bottomless pit.
I think again, like we're not gonna save the world. I think there's just some things that are just too complicated and too en masse to ever solve. But I really think this is what my start from the beginning on doing TikTok and talking about my divorce and my suicide attempt and everything. What I really what I've found out is that I think if you can just find a group of men who are not afraid to say, love you, man, or like check up on each other, like treat each other like brothers. Like, yeah, we didn't come from the same parents, but we're on the same planet, Mother Earth. I know that sounded so hippy dippy of me to say, but we're I think just men encouraging each other would do a lot of good. I think there are some men who are they have this they don't want to come off as like too sensitive or feminine or whatever. Like I have men in my life that are my friends, that I have no blood relation to them. When I see them, I hug them like they're my brothers. Just hug them really tight and say, "Love you, man. It's been nice seeing you. How you been?" Catching up on them. Just knowing just one person cares about you and cares about your well-being. I had a friend at work. He, lost his job and he got hired on at my place. He lost his girl, lost his kid. He was half of his check was going to his ex-wife and his kid. He was pretty much just living broke all the time. And you could see it on his face. He was not doing well. And then he, confided into me about that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't want to sound too preachy or biblical, but this will pass. This feeling, this struggle you're going through, it's going to pass. All good and bad things. Like, it's going to be good for a while, then it will be bad. That's the wave of life. You got to strap yourself on that surfboard and just go with the flow, go with the waves. And I told him, like, I believe in you, and that's all you really need to know. Just know that I believe in you, and things will be good. A year or two later, he didn't have to pay alimony anymore, and his kid was of age where he didn't have to do child support anymore, and he got 3 or 4 raises within that time, and now he's making as much as he's ever made in his life, has a nice car, has his own house, and he told me, he was like, "Thank you. I was about to give up." And hold on. Man, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. No, and I think that's
sucks,
what a
man.
lot of it too is. What a lot of the issues that we face as men is why people like Andrew Tate and that fucked up manosphere exist.
Mhm.
Everybody says it's just strictly the hatred of women. I don't actually believe that. I think a lot of it has more to do with even though Andrew Tate is, he doesn't actually give a shit. He comes off like he gives a shit. And
Mhm.
when you have when you live a life where the vast majority of people are just not going to just give a rat's ass, when they see you on the street, they're just going to drive on by.
Mhm.
Any form of kindness, like I said in a comment, I think I said in a comment at one point, or I maybe said it out loud, like on the other panel or something. When I think it was a comment, but it had something to do with an abused dog will often go to the first, react warmly to the first form of to the first form of kindness, whether that kindness comes from an evil or good,
Mhm.
essentially. And so when you have these young boys who are raised to, and they get to this age where they start to realize that nobody actually is going to genuinely give a shit about them unless they're family 9 times out of 10. If they're stuck on the side of the road with nothing to eat or something like that, they're going to be lucky if somebody stops and gives them some money. You know, um, they get drawn to these characters. They get drawn to these guys that are like, oh yeah, it's it, you know what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
getting it out that great.
No, I
You
understand what
get
you're
what I'm
saying.
trying.
Yeah, it's this
Yeah.
you see someone who you see the fruits of their labor, and yeah, there's
Yeah.
some things that are kind of questionable about him. But at the same time, I think the message is correct. But it just depends on how you apply it, I there's a lot of things that he has said that I apply to my life. I don't want a Bugatti and I don't want 2 Ferraris, but
No,
I want to be the guy that at my father's funeral, I want to be the man that people go to and just grief and weep on me. Just that I am strong enough, that I'll be strong enough that day to carry the weight of all that sadness. That's the kind of man I want to be. That's the
yeah.
Jordan Peterson thing, actually. You want to be the strongest man, mentally at a funeral because,
Well, and then,
yeah,
that's why I like Jordan Peterson, is because with Jordan Peterson, it's, his message isn't about hate. It's about common sense and, you know, it actually comes from a stage of genuine understanding and genuine care. Like when he sits there and cries like he does, you know, you can tell he's genuinely in pain for all of us. You know,
Well,
it's to see someone carry so many people's burden like that. It's you know, it's one, it's mind boggling, and two, it you know, it's comforting in a way as well.
mhm.
You know,
To see someone care that much. Clint, I
yeah,
really suggest it, man. Like, I don't have time for reading. One, because I was homeschooled, and two, I work all the time. Um, I can read. I know how to read Cat in the Hat. But get his audiobook. Start with 12 Rules for Life. That was the book that got me on track. And it's one of the it's my Bible. I don't know if that's sacrilegious to say, but it was I recommended it to everyone I knew. Just like read it, don't listen to the news outlets, don't they're trying to prevent a message getting out, and it was one of the most important messages of my life.
My
yeah.
wife and I are looking into Audible, so I mean, if we do get that, I'll probably look at that.
Yeah, I do mine through Google Play. I would love to continue the conversation. I don't know what's going on with my laptop charger. It's saying my laptop's about to die. But I really enjoyed this conversation. Um, any final thoughts? We'll start with you, Clint.
I don't know. I enjoyed the conversation as well, and I hope we do more of these.
Oh, for sure. And you, Nate?
Oh yeah, I'm totally down to do more. It was a good conversation. I'm glad I was able to put in my 2 cents, and you know, if I
Absolutely.
stepped on somebody's toes, I honestly could give a shit less.
Who gives a and that's the thing. Like conversations like this, they're messy. They're that no one's like the beautiful thing is that not everybody's going to agree, but the people that need the message or find any sort of like any tool that they could use or a comforting feeling, like that's all I care about. If 999 people hate this video, I'm cool with that as long as one person got helped with it. I don't care about the masses. I care about the individual that doesn't feel heard. Um, so I think what would be a cool thing to do if I can figure out how to do this on here. Maybe we can like review some Jordan Peterson talking points, maybe some clips from his lectures, and then kind of just discuss on like how we interpret it because we may have different interpretations of what he says. And then yeah, I'm completely down for that. Next time I'm off, I'll let you guys know.
All right, I'll be
Alrighty,
here.
man.
All right. Well, I love you guys so much. I consider you brothers, and I cannot wait until next time. And this has been Don't Panic with Clint and Nate and Gingerbread Boy. You guys have a good one.